Imagine a world without human nature. Does that seem like perfection to you? If you're a socialist, a communist, or anybody else who assumes people are basically good, much less those in government are, such a world is pretty much your only hope. Confused? Allow me to make clear why this is the case. Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt. Today is February the 7th of 2021 and it is Sunday. I'm glad to have you aboard today, whether it's on Rumble, on the podcast, or on YouTube. Thank you for coming along and visiting me today. And I wanted to talk about a subject that I've titled The Perfect Man. And the first thing I sort of want to do is make a disclaimer. There was a perfect man, in my estimation, in my belief, and he was Jesus Christ. And he's the only one that there's ever been as far as I'm aware. Even those who claim to follow in his footsteps can certainly be said to make mistakes, and probably certainly after they became Christians. Whereas, as the bumper sticker says, Christians aren't perfect, just forgiven, right? The founders of the United States were determined to have as little power as possible vested in the federal government. At least one reason for that was obvious. There are definitely others, like the differences between regions that make it hard to have overarching power, right? Make it so that if you have overarching power, you have problems that occur. That would be power at power at lower levels would be harder put to affect as many people as they would if they were further up the proverbial ladder. So that's kind of what I'm saying, right? Is if you have power at a federal level, at a national level, it affects a bunch of people, and if it has bad effects on one person, it's about as likely to have bad effects on another. And further, the stuff that happens on one level is or in one area. Okay, the stuff that happens on a federal level, if it affects all areas in the same ways, will affect areas that are not the same in the same ways, so that those areas will end up with, vastly, wildly different results as a result. I submit an important reason that they did what they did was that they didn't believe in the perfect man. If you look at any number of historical examples, it's pretty easy to understand why. You only really need to look back at the Plymouth Colony for an excellent example of what happens when you assume that there's going to be a perfect man. In the Plymouth Colony, as you'll recall, maybe you won't, but it appears to be true, they attempted to implement basically a socialist model. It failed dismally because people realized that if I just don't do anything, the system is still supposed to provide for me. The point of all of this, though, is this. You can think there's a perfect man if you want. You can believe that. And I'm here to tell you that there are a number of us, I don't know how many, I'm assuming the number's fairly large, who are trying to be as close to the perfect man as we can possibly manage or accomplish. Even for those of us who are working toward being that person, the reality is we're not only not perfect, we're probably not all that close. So when you implement something like socialism, where you assume that there are these people who are benevolent, that they're benefactors to the world, or to at least the society over which they preside, and you say that we can expect these people to do the good and right things as they sit in positions of power and authority, you need to understand that totally aside from anything else, and you may trust me that there are any number of reasons that this is a bad idea, including certain that Dr. Thomas Sowell and others have brought up, where we start to realize that people are not experts at what other people do, lots of times like they like to think they are, and they therefore cannot make a better society and so forth as, being in charge. But as importantly, at least, as anything like that, is that nobody in those top echelons in the elite class that does the ruling is anything like perfect. And the result is, and you see this around the world, the United States is not exceptional in this. That is to say, it is not an exception, right? And I don't think we can expect from people in the U.S. that they will do things, that are, above and beyond any other society in terms of how well we accomplish the ends of things like socialism or dictatorial or oligarchical government. The expectation is that what's going to happen is, because man is not perfect, what we're going to see is people who, among other things, will attempt to hang on to power past their, quote, expiration date. You look at what happened in Venezuela, and you've got yet again another oligarchical, feudal almost society in which people are handpicked to lead the society and then pushed into power. And those people act more or less like the people who they replaced. And the people they replaced, unfortunately, live in nice housing, drive around in nice cars, jet around the world when they feel like they can do it, which is not often for many of them, because they feel like they'll be deposed if they're not careful. That's just a reality, right? And they have people around them who live in abject poverty, right? And they basically ignore the fact that that's true. Somebody once said that socialism has one thing about it that's a pretty common property, and it is that everybody lives the same life, a life of absolute misery, right? So you bring the level down to where everybody's living the same miserable life and everybody's equal, right? That's not really true, of course. Why isn't it true? Well, for the simplest of reasons, because again, the people in charge, those people live in opulence and regal situations, right, while everybody else is living in their desperate poverty, wondering if rats are good to eat, right? This is the same sort of thing that happens in nations like North Korea. Let's be clear on something. Not only is the United States not perfect, but in fact, because of the way the U.S. is doing business at this point, where they do more and more stuff on a national level, every day we step a little farther away from perfection. And this, again, is the reason that I titled this The Perfect Man, because what's happening is that people in positions of authority are anything but perfect, which you can pretty much ascribe imperfection as a trait to humanity as a whole, right? But those people are anything but perfect, and the result is that they seek to gain more and more power and authority as time goes on, and that's not a good thing. That said, if you compare what's going on in the United States to what happens in the rest of the world, what you're likely to see is that the United States is still one of the better places to live. Does this mean that I want to see the United States continue to go down the path that it's currently on? Absolutely, positively not. I do not want to see it to continue to go down that path. I want to see it go back on a path where people are more or less left to their own devices unless they're physically harming other people. And you have to even be real careful, as I've said before, with a definition of what physical harm looks like and where you need to actually intervene, right? The point is this. There's this sort of hierarchy that was put in place by the founders, and it was done because people are not perfect. It's that simple. And the hierarchy basically says we have the right to pursue life, we have the right to pursue liberty, we have the right to pursue happiness, right? Life, liberty, happiness. If we do not have life, then we can't have liberty. If we do not have liberty, chances are exceptionally good we're not going to have happiness. If you have an overarching government full of imperfect people, and I fail to see any way that you can do otherwise, you're going to inhibit life, you're going to reduce liberty, and the obvious result is that you cannot help but curtail happiness. I don't see any way around that. All right, I'm coming to the end of my time. I just want to say again, look, if you think that perfection in humanity is something you should expect or believe in, and you think that we're going to somehow evolve to a perspective or position of perfection, you're mistaken. You're confused. All right, today is, as I say, Sunday, the 7th of February of 2021. Again, I'm happy to have everybody aboard who's listening on the podcast, who's on Rumble, and who's on YouTube. I do ask you a special favor. I'd like for you to click the like button or the rumble button if you enjoy what you see, because that tells me, if nothing else, how I'm doing and whether or not you're actually enjoying what you see. I can tell a little bit by the numbers, but the truth is people are a lot of times, they do the numbers are a result of what they see me to be saying either in my title or in my blurb. So maybe I need to work on my titles or blurbs in certain instances. All of that having been said, I'm hoping that your weekend has been a good one. Again, this is for a lot of people the start of the week, tomorrow being the start of the work week, and tomorrow will be the 8th of February 2021, and it'll be Monday. Hope you're having a good weekend so far, and that everything is going well for you. We're doing a little bit of cold weather here, but everything is going pretty well otherwise. Yet again, hope things are going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Sunday, the 7th of February, 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.